the concept of carrying capacity is probably one that you are familiar with based on living environment and other courses you may have taken in the past. And the definition of carrying capacity, it is the largest population size in a given habitat for a given species that can be sustained given the resources available. We usually use the letter K to represent the carrying capacity of an area, of an ecosystem. We could see some example graphs here. Here we have a population that grew from the 1800s up pretty quickly, then overshot the carrying capacity. This is something we often see, is that growing populations might overshoot the carrying capacity, and subsequently we often see a decline in populations afterwards. We call that a dieback. And eventually what we see is this population hovers around the carrying capacity for an extended period of time. And this is typical of what we see when we collect data about the number of organisms in given areas. That in some years the conditions may make more food available or other factors, and the population can expand beyond the carrying capacity. Others years might be difficult times and the population dies off, but we see it generally hovering around the carrying capacity unless something radically changes the resources available. The graph on the right shows a famous example. It's the St. Matthew Island reindeer population. These are very well studied. St. Matthew Island is in the Bering Sea. It's a part of Alaska. And there was briefly in the 1940s a Coast Guard station there. And in 1944, at the start of this graph, the Coast Guard brought in 29 reindeer in 1944, and they were meant to serve as an emergency source of food in case something happened on St. Matthew Island. So 29 reindeer were imported to St. Matthew Island, and what we see is the population increased pretty rapidly. Okay. And what we can see is that there were over 6,000 deer. This was around in the early 1960s. And the population expanded significantly. The station was actually abandoned after the 1940s, but people revisited it and kept tabs on the reindeer population. And it increased up to around 6,000. And then within a period of 2 years, 2 very difficult winters on St. Matthew Island, the population had crashed down to 42 reindeer. Eventually, the entire population was eliminated from St. Matthew Island and is no longer present there. So we see here a population expanding well beyond the carrying capacity and then the subsequent die-off. The estimated carrying capacity for St. Matthew Island was somewhere around 1,300 or 1,500. But obviously conditions in those difficult winters caused the population to completely crash and die off.